Picture this. A January afternoon in Manhattan. The Hudson River flows past the skyline, chunks of ice drifting on its surface. An Airbus A320 climbs into the crystalline winter air, carrying 150 passengers who expect to be in Charlotte by dinner. In 90 seconds, a flock of Canada geese will destroy both engines.
Those are Canada gooses, eh?
This isn't just a story about a brilliant pilot. It's a story about what happens when an entire city refuses to let 155 strangers die. So, stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for some extreme turbulence, because this is Final Boarding Call.
All right, I immediately have to start this off. Before your hello welcome even, I know this is going to be a shout out for Nick and Taylor, but if you got a problem with Canada gooses, you got a problem with me, and I suggest you let that one marinate, and they'll get the reference. You may not, but that's fine.
I literally have no idea what you just did.
You see what I'm doing, guys? I married this person. It's
Hello and welcome to Final Boarding Call. And if you're new here, sorry, that is not our typical intro. Zach's going rogue. I am your disaster-obsessed host, Alice.
And I'm just Zach, trying to have a good time in life.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, speaking of good time, Zach, I want to tell you congratulations. We have made it a full year. This is our 1-year anniversary episode of starting Final Boarding Call.
Well, then.
Wow, we did it.
Goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel achieved?
Yeah, actually I do. I wanted to see if we could do this for a year.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main goals was just staying consistent and doing it. It didn't really matter who listened and any of that stuff. Most podcasts, if you guys don't know, apparently fall off after, did you say 2 or 3 episodes?
Yep, 2 or 3 episodes. And then they just die. So making it a year is a massive accomplishment. I'm proud of us, and I'm really proud of our listeners, because not only are there a lot of you for us not doing any sort of social media advertising. We're not even on social media.
I checked today.
We're not posting. They exist.
We're not.
We've posted like 2 times.
We also don't really post on our personal ones, so take it.
We're not social media people, but for us not actively trying to grow the podcast, we have the coolest listener base of like people that are commenting regularly, and we read all of those comments. So thank you to everybody. People that email us, and I love emailing you back. We write letters. Like, this has just been the coolest community to grow, and I'm genuinely grateful. So thank you for being a part of it.
You're welcome.
Not to be cheesy, but okay.
I'm actually also proud of us because we're pretty busy people frequently, and we've managed to not miss a single episode so far. We don't have much in the bank, which stresses Alice out. But
not the financial bank. I was like, did you spend all our money?
We don't have episodes in the bank, but I am gifted at spending money.
All right, you guys, this is a classic. I wanted to celebrate our 1 year with one of the most well-known epic aviation stories of all time. So I'm doing it. Sources, season 10, episode 5 of Mayday Air Disasters. We have the NTSB investigation, including testimony from the flight crew and ferry captains. As a reminder, we have merch. I'm just sneaking this in because I totally forgot to write it down in my notes, but
we have merch.
We have merch. If you want to celebrate a year with us, check out our website. We got merch. Okay, you ready, Zach?
I suppose so.
Hey, Zach, on Wednesday, where are we going to be?
We're going to be in New York.
Do you know what airport we're flying in and out of?
No.
LaGuardia. All right, you guys, let's jump in. January 15th, 2009. The temperature hovers at 20 degrees Fahrenheit as afternoon settles over New York City. The Hudson River carries chunks of ice downstream, and the cold bites through even the heaviest coats. At LaGuardia Airport, 150 passengers board US Airways Flight 1549, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the kind of flight that happens thousands of times every day. Business travelers, families, people going home. Nobody expects anything unusual. In seat 1D, first class baby, sits Rick Elias, a venture capitalist who's made this commute dozens of times. In seat 15A, just behind the left wing, Dave Sanderson settles in for what he expects to be a routine business trip. He's a sales director, a husband, a father of 4. Somewhere in the middle of the cabin, a nervous flyer named Tracy Walsco takes her seat, already dreading takeoff. Near the front, Jim Whitaker, who's a construction executive, notices a mother struggling to manage 2 young children as she finds her seat. He makes a mental note. If anything goes wrong, he'll help her. None of them know that in less than 4 minutes, they'll all believe they're about to die. In the cockpit, 2 men prepare for departure. Captain Chesley, Sully, Sullenberger, 57 years old, brings nearly 20,000 hours of flight experience to the left seat.
Top tier guy.
He's a former Air Force fighter pilot. Whew. And he learned to fly gliders at the Air Force Academy. We are learning that glider flying is such a good skill to have for a captain. I'm going to start asking captains when I board flights.
Have you ever flown a glider?
You're like, hi, so I don't really care about your flight experience hours, but could you please tell me about gliders?
Have you flown? Do you know how to flow?
We're like, excuse me, get this woman off the plane immediately. Sully isn't just an experienced pilot. He spent his entire career preparing for a moment exactly like the one that's about to arrive. He holds a master's degree in industrial psychology and public administration.
Weird.
What? Not typical credentials for an airline captain. He studied the science of why humans fail in crisis, how the brain processes threats, how panic overrides rational thought, how training can create automatic responses that bypass fear. He is an expert in something called metacognition, thinking about thinking. It's the ability to recognize when your own judgment is compromised and consciously override your instincts. Sully would be such a good race car driver. For years, he served as an accident investigator for the Airline Pilots Association, traveling to crash sites, interviewing survivors, piecing together the final moments of doomed flights. He worked with NASA on research into error-inducing contexts, the environmental and psychological factors that cause competent professionals to make fatal mistakes. One investigation in particular shaped his thinking. He'd examined a major accident at Los Angeles International Airport.
Lax.
Studying how the evacuation unfolded and failed. He learned that in the chaos of an emergency, passengers are often left behind. Flight attendants assume that someone else has checked the back of the flight. Survivors rush for exits while injured passengers remain trapped in their seats. The data showed that the crew's actions in the first 90 seconds after a crash often determined who lived and who died. He would spend decades mentally rehearsing emergency scenarios, not just in simulators, but in his head during routine flights. Always be ready. What would I do if I lost an engine? What if both engines failed? What are my options? Where would I land right now? This kind of mental preparation is very rare. Most pilots trust that emergencies won't happen. Not to them. And Sully operated on the assumption that eventually one would.
That's fair.
He's a special kind of pilot.
I wonder statistically, like, how many hours of flying you have to do before it's likely for you to have an incident. You know, they say, like, you would have to spend, like, 48 hours or something like that in an elevator constantly for it to have an issue. Maybe it's 48 days or something like that. I don't remember.
Those are different amounts for sure, but it is interesting.
But there's
to think
statistics about that. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you've done 30,000 hours of flying, like, how close are you to an accident?
That's a really interesting thing to think about.
It's not fun, but it's my brain.
Ugh. Your brain is kind of like Sully's. And beside Sully is sitting First Officer Jeffrey Skiles, 49, with over 15,600 hours of experience. Here's an interesting detail. He had just finished his A320 training. This is literally his first trip as a line pilot on this aircraft type. He's brand new here. While that might sound concerning, it actually works in their favor. The emergency procedures are fresh in his noggin.
Yeah.
He is like, oh man, I know very much where the emergency exits are.
We've had
This aircraft.
multiple episodes where we were talking about people that have done the same thing for too long are just kind of complacent and not really doing everything they're supposed to. So I see nothing wrong with a freshie.
I agree. He spent weeks in simulators running through exactly the kind of checklists they're about to need. At 3:24 p.m., the tower clears flight 1549 for takeoff, and our first officer handles the controls as the Airbus accelerates down the runway and lifts into the clear winter sky. It is a textbook departure, 10-mile visibility, light winds, no weather concerns. The plane turns left to avoid Manhattan's controlled airspace, climbing steadily toward its assigned cruising altitude. In the cabin, passengers are settling in for a 2-hour flight, and flight attendants are preparing for service. At 3:26 p.m., Sully makes an offhand comment to his first officer about the view of the Hudson River below them. It's the kind of small talk that happens in cockpits every day. Interestingly enough, our episode last week was about talking in a cockpit, but like intense conversation. This kind of small talk, still approved. Neither of them could imagine that in less than 90 seconds, that same runway would have a very different significance. At 3:27 p.m.,
I don't know what they do to make such weird noises now.
these guinea pigs.
It's like they're sharpening their teeth on the fucking water bottle. Like,
I think they're literally just running it back and forth, like they're pushing it against the metal. At 3:27 p.m., Flight 1549 climbs through 2,800 feet when Sully spots something ahead that makes his blood run cold. Birds. But not the sparrows or pigeons that you see around airports. These are Canadian geese. They are massive birds, each weighing up to 12 pounds, flying directly into their path. The physics are brutal. Flight 1549 is traveling at over 200 miles per hour. There is no time to maneuver, no time to climb or descend or turn away. Multiple impacts occur simultaneously. Passengers hear tremendous banging sounds. Through the windows, people see flames shooting from both engines, followed by an eerie silence as the familiar whine of jet turbines stops. The smell of burning birds and jet fuel fill the cabin. Yikes.
nobody likes burnt bird.
So bad. It's so bad. In the cockpit, Sully and our first officer face every pilot's worst nightmare: dual engine failure. But this isn't happening at 30,000 feet.
Yeah, they're way too low to be able to glide very far.
I mean, if they were high enough, they could have 20 minutes to problem solve. You know, they'd basically be in a giant glider. This is happening barely 3 minutes after takeoff.
Yeah, did you say 2,800 feet or something like that?
2,800 feet. They are low altitude, and they are over one of the most densely populated areas in America. New York City, baby. I mean, I couldn't think of a worse place to try and land a plane. Sully later described the sensation as a sickening pit of your stomach falling through the floor feeling. But this is where his decades of preparation pay off. He recognizes the sterile response for what it is. It is his brain basically flooding his system with fear, and he consciously overrides it. This is metacognition in action, thinking about thinking, observing his own panic, and choosing not to follow it. He forces himself to compartmentalize. The fear still exists, but he boxes it away. Boop, 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 boop.
Just put some extra thick packing tape on
That's
that. We'll
it.
be fine.
Yep. And he focuses only on the highest priorities: fly the plane, find a landing spot, give his passengers the best possible chance of surviving. And Sully takes control immediately. In that moment, he assumes responsibility for 155 lives as the aircraft transforms from a functioning airliner into a 150,000-pound glider.
Oh, the amount of fuel alone that they have on that, though.
Oh, I mean, this thing just took off. They got it all. The division of labor happens instantly and without discussion, while Sully flies the aircraft, maintaining exactly the right speed to maximize their glide distance. Skiles works frantically through the emergency checklist. The dual engine failure procedure is a 3-page document, and it is designed for emergencies at cruising altitude, not at 2,800 feet. So Skiles has to skip some pages. He has to prioritize and make decisions in seconds that pilots normally have multiple minutes to consider. On his own initiative, Sully starts the auxiliary power unit, which is a backup power source that isn't required by any checklist at this stage. But his deep knowledge of the A320 systems tells him he needs that APU running to keep the flight computers active during whatever comes next. That's good instinct.
Absolutely.
Air traffic controller Patrick Hartman immediately understands the gravity when Sully reports the bird strike.
He's like, oh, son of a bitch.
Oh boy. Within seconds, Harton clears all traffic from LaGuardia's runways and offers runway 13 for an emergency landing. I mean, that's an air traffic controller doing a solid job. But Sully's mental calculations are already complete. They're at 2,800 feet and falling. LaGuardia's behind them.
No time to turn around.
Even if he turned around immediately, they would never make it.
Yeah,
And if
got to scrub a lot of speed doing a whole U-turn with a big-ass plane.
yes, and if they came up short, they would crash into one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in America. Harton suggests Teterboro Airport, New Jersey. For a moment, Sully considers it, but the numbers also don't work. They're losing altitude at 1,000 feet per minute.
They're like, we've got 2 minutes
Yeah,
to do anything.
It's too far. And if they try and fail, they're going to crash in the city somewhere. And that's when Sully makes the decision that will define his life. The Hudson River stretches below them. It's a long, straight, obstacle-free landing zone in the middle of Manhattan. It's also insane. It's so
super
dangerous.
cold. Yeah.
And water landings? Those almost never end well. But it is the only option that doesn't risk killing people on the ground.
Yeah.
Sully keys his radio and says 6 words that air traffic controllers will never forget. We're going to be in the Hudson. I could not imagine.
Have the boats ready.
Uh-huh. Well, Zach, in the cabin, passengers know something's going on. It's the unusual silence of it all. The low altitude. The weird burnt bird smell. Billy Campbell, a business executive wearing noise-canceling headphones, looks up from his work. This would so be me. I would be like, what's going on? Like,
Can somebody clue me in? I haven't been paying attention.
So he's wearing noise-canceling headphones. He looks up from his computer, his work, to see other passengers in the brace position. He'd missed the entire announcement, and he has seconds to prepare. Dave Sanderson, I can't believe nobody told this guy, like, hey, the plane's about to crash. And he's just like, no, I've got like an Excel spreadsheet. I really need to.
Yeah, it really is you. It doesn't matter what you try to say to you. You're just like, I'm busy. Can you quit?
Work. All I do is work, no matter what. Dave Sanderson in seat 15A pulls out his phone to call his wife. Then he stops. He realizes that he doesn't want the last thing she hears to be the sound of him potentially dying. That would be horrible. So he puts the phone away and he begins to pray for the pilot to be on his game, for his wife to know that he loves her, for forgiveness. Josh Peltier manages to send a 3-word text to his family. My plane's crashing.
I'd be pissed if that was sent to me.
If that was the text that I sent you, I could never. No. What would my friend? I don't know. Just like the eggplant emoji. Okay. Tracy Walsco, the nervous flyer. God help this poor woman.
She'll never fly again.
She experiences something unexpected. Instead of panic,
Euphoria.
She feels calm. The passenger beside her frantically tries to call his wife. Tracy tells him to put the phone away and pray with her. She takes his hand. Jim Whitaker, the construction exec, looks at the mother with the 2 young children that he noticed boarding earlier. She's obviously terrified, and he leans over and begins telling her calmly and confidently that everything's going to be fine. The pilot knows what he's doing, and they are going to land safely. And he admits later that he was totally lying. He didn't believe any of it, but he couldn't let her spend what might be her last moments in panic. That's a good dude.
I mean, he had to be. He was planning on, if they needed it, they would be helped immediately.
It's a good guy. I want to sit next to him. Survivors describe an eerie silence in the cabin. No screaming, no hysteria. Just the thin whistle of wind over the fuselage, and somewhere in the back, one man audibly sobbing. Everyone is locked in their own private final act. The flight attendants begin the brace commands, a rhythmic chant that fills the silence. Brace, brace, heads down, stay calm. In the cockpit, Sully focuses on one thing: energy management. His years flying gliders taught him that altitude and airspeed are a finite resource. You can trade one for the other, but you can't get either back once it's gone. He doesn't waste energy trying to reach a runway that he knows is mathematically impossible. Instead, he spends it ensuring they hit the Hudson at the right angle and the right speed.
As smooth as possible.
Mm-hmm. Skiles, meanwhile, executes one of his most critical moves. He presses the ditch button.
There's a ditch button.
There is. It's a control that closes valves and openings underneath the fuselage to slow water intake during a water landing.
Nice.
It's so smart. It's a small move, but it's going to save some lives. The exchange between the pilots, captured on the cockpit voice recorder, reveals their professionalism under pressure. At one point, Sully asks Skiles if he has any ideas. And Skiles responds simply, actually, no.
Like, we're doing the best we can.
It's not defeatism, it's professional confirmation that they have exhausted every option and they are fully committed to the landing that they're doing.
Well, honestly, it's for the best for them to be in agreement on that.
Oh,
the
yeah.
last thing you need when you have no time, no altitude, no engines is to be going back and forth on what you should be doing.
100%. At 3:30 p.m., exactly 208 seconds after the bird strike, Flight 1549 approaches the Hudson River. The Airbus hits the water at 125 knots, right around 140 miles per hour, sending massive plumes of spray shooting up on both sides. Sully has executed a textbook water landing. Nose up slightly, wings level, touching down tail first to prevent the aircraft from cartwheeling across the surface. And the impact is violent, but survivable.
Not near as violent as it would have been if he touched down nose first, or
Absolutely.
even flat belly.
Yeah. And getting those wings level, I mean, this is not our first water ditch story, and they have not ended well, the other ones. Passengers describe the sound as 1,000 garbage trucks crashing into a wall. The aircraft slides nearly 4,000 feet before coming to rest, already beginning to take on water. In seat 15A, Dave Sanderson feels the plane stop, and he immediately looks around. His section seems okay. But instead of heading for the nearest exit, he turns and moves toward the back of the plane. Something tells him that people might need help back there. And he's right. The rear of the aircraft has borne the brunt of the impact. Flight attendant Doreen Welsh, stationed at the back, has just experienced a completely different crash than the passengers up front. Upon impact, a piece of metal, described as an angle iron or floor beam, has ripped through the cabin floor and punctured her leg. The laceration is deep enough to go through muscle. Welsh doesn't realize how badly she's injured. Adrenaline masks the pain. Then things get worse. A panicked passenger rushes toward the rear left door. Welsh tries to stop them, but the passenger cracks the handle before she can intervene. And because the plane landed tail low, the water outside is already above the door sill. The Hudson River begins pouring into the cabin. Oh, that passenger. I mean, the fear and just, like, at that point, you're just like, get me the F off of this plane.
Yeah. Except it's not going to suck you out. It is going to flood in.
But you're not thinking logically. However, you have to listen to flight attendants in this situation because they have practiced all of this over and over again. And you have not. Welsh tries twice to reseal the door, but the fuselage has twisted on impact. The door won't close. Within seconds, frigid water rises to seat level, then waist level, then chest level. Welsh makes a split-second decision that saves lives. She abandons the rear exits entirely and begins screaming for passengers to go over the seats, literally climbing over the headrests, to reach the overwing exits before the back of the plane fully submerges. At the same time, the rear cargo doors have popped open from the impact pressure. The aircraft is taking on water from below and behind simultaneously. If the rear door had opened fully instead of just cracking, investigators later conclude the plane would have flooded and sunk tail first in under 60 seconds. Up front, flight attendants Sheila Dale and Donna Dent manage a very different evacuation. Their section is still dry. How trippy is that to think about?
To look down the aisles and like some of it is gone and underwater. And
that's crazy. They deploy the forward exits, and the evacuation slides transform into rafts, as is explained on your evacuation card. But there's a problem at door 1R. The door doesn't lock into place properly and begins drifting closed, threatening to puncture the inflatable slide. Dent has to assign a passenger to physically hold the door open for the duration of the evacuation. Like, it's trying to close.
And then you'll get that pinch point and pop a raft, and nobody needs that right
100%.
now.
A job the man performs without complaint, while dozens of terrified passengers stream past him onto the raft. Ugh, we got some heroes on this story. I love a good hero, and we have many. Some passengers, smelling jet fuel and fearing an explosion, begin jumping directly into the river.
Sounds too cold for my blood.
Bad choice. The flight attendants shout at them to stay on the wings where it's safer, but fear overrides instruction. Dave Sanderson has made his way to the back of the plane, where he finds absolute chaos. Water is chest high and rising. He helps an elderly woman who is struggling. Then he continues checking rows as the cabin floods around him. By the time he finally exits, the water has risen to neck level, and he's the last passenger off the plane. When Doreen Welsh finally reaches the front of the plane during the evacuation, she is shocked to see flight attendants Dale and Dent dry and perfectly groomed. She later describes it as if two entirely different accidents happened in the same plane. Like, she is soaking wet and has a giant metal thing sticking out of her leg. And they're just like, oh, what happened?
What are you doing back there?
And honestly, she's not wrong. The passengers in the front experienced a controlled evacuation onto dry rafts. The passengers in the back were basically Hunger Gaming their way off of this plane as it was sinking. Crazy.
In the Hunger Games, you're actually trying to kill all the other people.
Oh my God. Okay. Mm-hmm.
PETA.
I do love the Hunger Games. Meanwhile, Captain Sully has walked the length of the cabin twice, verifying that every seat is empty. Only after confirming the aircraft is clear does he finally exit, last off the plane. And this is something that maritime tradition demands, which is kind of interesting because obviously it's a plane, but it kind of became a boat. All 155 people aboard Flight 1549 are accounted for and alive.
Perfect.
So everybody is off the plane, but now they're in the Hudson. The water temperature is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. It is cold enough to cause incapacitation in minutes. Sanderson tries to reach the wing, but it's too crowded. He ends up swimming toward a rescue boat, but his limbs are already failing. The cold is stealing his ability to move. And this is the beginning of the second miracle on the Hudson. 4 minutes after the plane hits the water, ferry captain Vincent Lombardi arrives on the scene, and he hadn't waited for a distress call. He'd been departing from Pier 79 at West 39th Street for a routine run to Weehawken, New Jersey, when he looked out his window and saw an Airbus A320 descending unnaturally low over the river. And then he watched it hit the water about a mile south of his position. He did not radio for permission. He did not wait for instructions. He turned the Thomas Jefferson. Yes, that is that's
name.
The name. That's the name of his boat, and he is heading for the crash site at full throttle, radioing.
Which is 4.5 miles an hour.
He's radioing a general alert. There's a plane in the water. Oh my gosh. This immediate response was not luck. It was muscle memory forged 8 years earlier on September 11th, 2001. On that day, the New York ferry fleet had evacuated nearly 500,000 people from lower Manhattan in the largest maritime evacuation in history. Many of the captains who responded to Flight 1549 were veterans of that operation. They'd learned to act without waiting for authorization. They'd learned that in a crisis, you go and you figure out the rest when you get there. Captain Manny Liba was piloting the Moira Smith, a ferry that he'd named after the only female NYPD officer killed on 9/11. God, I hope y'all were ready to cry, because this episode is just, it's getting me a little bit. Okay, when he saw the plane go down, he reacted with the same instincts that he had used to pull people off the seawall at the World Trade Center site. 20-year-old Captain Brittany Catanzaro, one of the youngest ferry captains in the harbor, maneuvered her vessel toward the scene as well. Within minutes, 19 vessels are converging on the crash site.
Phenomenal.
14 New York waterway ferries plus Coast Guard, NYPD, FDNY, boats, just everybody's working together. The captains communicate directly with each other on VHF radio, coordinating their approach to avoid boxing each other in or swamping the wings with their wakes, which
Makes
is
sense,
also it's something you don't want to do. The Hudson has a very strong current, and the tide is pulling the aircraft south, which is crazy to think about. The airplane's moving.
Yeah, but movement is actually probably a good thing. I think in still waters, you actually sink faster.
That's probably true. It's also another thing that you have to like coordinate and try and figure out.
We have to maintain like variable. 2 miles an hour to...
The entire rescue is happening on the fly. The plane and the ferries all drifting downstream together toward the Statue of Liberty, which Zach is going to get to see. The ferry captains make a tactical decision. They use their heavy vessels to pin the drifting aircraft, creating a stable platform and shielding the wings from the current. They position themselves to create a lee, which is a protected area of calm water, so the river doesn't wash over the passengers that are standing on the wing. But getting people from the low wings of an A320 into ferries with decks that are about 7 feet above waterline.
That's the lowest deck?
Yeah, that's hard. The crews are improvising. Deckhand Hector Rabanez on the Thomas Jefferson deploys a Jason's Cradle, which is a maritime rescue net designed to scoop people up from the water. But he quickly realizes that it's too slow for the volume of survivors that they're trying to handle. Like, you need, you can be doing like one thing at a time. So he abandons the net and he starts physically hauling people up by hand. Okay. He is just bending over and like, bam, muscling it up. Other crews lower bow loading ramps. They're lowering the loading ramps, the same ones that commuters use every day, as close to the wings as possible, allowing passengers to step directly from the plane onto the ferry. They deploy Jason's Cradles, but they really do find, all of them are finding that it just is not fast enough for the situation.
Yeah.
On several boats, the ferry passengers, ordinary commuters who'd expected a routine river crossing, form human chains, holding the belts of deckhands so the crews can lean further over the boats to continue grabbing survivors.
In my head, as a somewhat negative soul, I was picturing that you were going to say the people who were expecting their regular commute were throwing a fit that they were going to be late for work.
I mean, look, it is New York, baby.
I know. I don't understand the zombie comment, but... Oh, God, I hate that song.
They are fighting. Okay. What's in your head? Anyway, For those who ended up in the water, the rescue is more desperate because the cold has stolen their ability to grip. So deckhands describe pulling people up who are dead weight.
Yeah.
Their hands are too frozen to hold onto ladders or ropes. They reach down and grab survivors by their belts, coat collars, whatever they can, hauling them aboard like cargo. Barry Leonard was one of the first passengers to exit and one of the most seriously injured. Fearing an explosion from the fuel smell, he jumped directly into the Hudson. My guy, the impact fractured his sternum. He struggled to stay afloat in the water because, one, it was cold enough to kill him, and eventually he was pulled onto a ferry. Along with Dave Sanderson, he'll be one of 2 passengers who require overnight hospitalization. Dave Sanderson spends 7 minutes in the river. This is our hero.
That's pretty close to killing you.
And by the time he reaches a ferry, his legs have stopped working entirely. Someone grabs him and pulls him up a ladder. He collapses on the deck, shaking uncontrollably. At 3:55 p.m., just 25 minutes after the water landing, the last person is pulled from the wreckage site. The injuries are remarkably minor. So 5 people suffer what we would consider serious injuries, including Doreen Welsh, who is the flight attendant with her leg wound, and a passenger who fractured his sternum. Mm-hmm. The moment the ferries touch the Manhattan and New Jersey piers, the miracle transitions into a massive medical and logistical operation. The passengers aren't just cold and wet. Many are in the early stages of physiological shutdown. Triage centers spring up at the West 39th Street Terminal in Manhattan and the Port Imperial Terminal in Weehawken. Emergency responders sort survivors into 3 categories, which for anybody who has watched like Grey's Anatomy or, any kind of drama show like that, this is absolutely what they do. They will sort you into 3 categories. Those requiring immediate hospitalization, those with minor injuries, and those who are simply cold and shaking. Need a lollipop. But before ambulances can even arrive, ferry terminal staff and ordinary commuters become first responders. They strip off their own coats to wrap the drenched survivors. One of the most common sights in those first minutes is passengers sitting on terminal floors, wrapped in heavy wool blankets donated by strangers, clutching cups of hot coffee or orange juice to spike their plummeting blood sugar. Many survivors are covered in A1 jet fuel, which leaked from the aircraft during the landing and evacuation. The fuel is a skin and eye irritant. Several passengers will later report chemical burns and vision problems. Triage includes getting people into warm showers as quickly as possible, both to raise their core body temperature, but also to get this
all that
off of them. Dave Sanderson's case is obviously dire. He's been submerged in 41-degree water for 7 minutes, and he is not okay at all. The survivors are scattered across 2 states. Zach, I don't know if you caught that when I said
New York and New Jersey.
Yep. And the first hour is filled with frantic uncertainty. Families across the country have seen the footage on CNN. A plane floating in the Hudson, passengers standing on the wings, and they have no idea if their loved ones are alive. Passengers with working phones become the most valuable people in the terminal. They pass their devices around like precious relics, letting strangers call their husbands, wives, children, parents to say the words that everyone needs to hear. I am alive and I am okay. In the chaos, survivors don't ask each other for names. They ask for seat numbers. These numbers become a shorthand, a way of placing each other in kind of this shared geography of trauma. For years afterwards, Many will identify themselves by their seat assignment before their name. It's like their little code.
I would be terrible at that because
You never know where
what seat I'm in.
Absolutely not. Captain Sully refuses to leave the triage area, even after exiting the aircraft last, even after being checked by medics. He won't go until he has a physical count confirming that every single one of the 155 souls is accounted for. This guy's
dedicated man.
His years of studying accident investigations have taught him that this is the moment when people fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
When assumptions are made, when someone decides that surely everyone got out, and he will not allow it. The practical challenges are overwhelming. Many passengers have lost absolutely everything. Wallets, phones, shoes, identification. They can't prove who they are. They can't get home. New York Waterway staff and local hotels send people out to buy sweatpants, socks, and shoes so survivors don't have to leave in hospital gowns or fuel-soaked rags.
Love that.
That's a good thing to do. One survivor, Valley Collins, makes a decision that many others will quietly echo in the days to come. She chooses to drive home to Tennessee rather than getting on another airplane.
Feel that.
The fear of the sky, the visceral body-level rejection of flight, becomes a common thread among survivors. Many will eventually return to flying, but not all. And none will ever board a plane without thinking about those 208 seconds. In the terminals, something unexpected happens. Strangers who shared nothing but a seat assignment 3 hours ago begin embracing each other, crying, exchanging phone numbers. The bonds formed in crisis are immediate and deep, the kind that normally take years to develop, compressed into minutes of shared terror and relief. A support group forms almost immediately. They begin calling their gatherings celebrations of life. But for Dave Sanderson, our badass hero passenger, his ordeal is not over. At the hospital, his core temperature has dropped dangerously low. Doctors use warming blankets and heated IV fluids to stabilize him, but the process takes 5 hours.
Wow.
In severe hypothermia, there is a risk of afterdrop. So cold blood from the extremities rushing back to your heart once they start warming up other parts of your body, and that can cause cardiac arrest. Okay, so this one, the investigation is fairly straightforward, but we're going to cover it a little bit. The NTSB investigation faces an unusual challenge. Their evidence...
It's below the water.
It's floating in the Hudson.
I bet it's not floating anymore.
Recovery teams work quickly to stabilize the waterlogged aircraft before it fully sinks or drifts away because it's still moving.
Mm-hmm.
When investigators recover the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, they confirm what everyone already suspected. Both engines lost power almost simultaneously after ingesting large birds.
After only being in the air for a couple moments.
Yes, it's so true. But the recordings also show how badass these pilots are. Because through the whole ordeal, they were so calm, so focused. But investigators want to answer a crucial question.
Could they have made it back?
Did Sully make the right call? Could the aircraft have reached LaGuardia or Teterboro? They program the exact conditions into flight simulators. You know, I love it when they do this.
Mm-hmm.
And test various scenarios with experienced airline pilots. The initial results are troubling.
They could get back.
When pilots know in advance that they'll lose both engines and immediately turn back toward LaGuardia, about half of them successfully reach the airport. This creates tension in the hearing room. If a safe airport landing was possible, Sully's decision to ditch in the river destroying a multi-million-dollar aircraft could be viewed as a reckless gamble rather than brilliant improvisation. Sully's defense is not based on ego. It is based on the science of human cognition. The simulation pilots knew a bird strike was coming. They didn't have to spend any seconds processing what was happening. They just knew. They're like, oh, this was the bird strike. I'm going to immediately turn around and start getting ready for an evacuation at an airport. Sully argues that real pilots in real emergencies don't react instantly. They have to have time to perceive what is happening, analyze the situation.
Did we lose both engines? Did this happen?
Correct. Yes. And the time that took was already bleeding away as the aircraft fell toward Manhattan because they didn't know an airstrike, a bird strike, was going to happen. The turning point comes when investigators agree to run the simulations again with a 35-second delay added, time to account for the realistic human response to an unexpected catastrophic emergency. And with that delay factored in, every single simulation ended in disaster. Planes clip the George Washington Bridge, they stall over the Bronx, they crash short of runways into very densely populated neighborhoods, and the death toll in these scenarios include not just every person on board, but also victims on the ground. The 35-second delay proves that the Hudson wasn't just an option.
It was the option.
If Sully had tried to make it to a runway, everyone would have died. Guaranteed. The investigation also examines why the bird strike was so catastrophic. DNA testing confirms the geese were adult, migrating birds, each weighing between 8 and 10 pounds. That's a lot of bird.
Well, them Canada gooses.
They're for real. Current engine certifications requires manufacturers to test their engines against 4-pound birds.
How many 4-pound birds can an engine eat?
Oh, you're asking the right questions, but I don't have the answer. When multiple 10-pound birds hit both engines simultaneously, complete power loss is inevitable. The final report concludes that Sully's decision, it was not just acceptable, it was exemplary. The lead investigator notes that the crew's performance resulted in the most successful ditching in aviation history. There is nothing to criticize. We love an A+ report card.
Some of us do.
For the 155 survivors, January 15th is no longer just a date. It's their rebirth day. It's the day that they received a second chance at life that they were not supposed to have. Every year, survivors gather at exactly 3:31 p.m., the moment of the bird strike, and they raise a glass. They don't toast to Captain Sully alone. They toast to each other, to the ferry crews, to the strangers who pulled them from freezing water, to the random, incredible skill and luck and preparation that allowed every single person to walk away. And they've developed their own rituals. There's something called the survivor's hug, which is a specific long-lasting embrace that only people who have faced death together can share. It's not a polite greeting. It's a silent acknowledgement of what they have been through. And at the 10th anniversary, survivors took a boat trip back onto the Hudson. And they retraced the path that their plane had ditched as ferries raced to save them. For some, it was closure, and for some, it was a way of honoring the fact that they survived. And our buddy Dave, our amazing passenger Dave, he became a motivational speaker. and he should be a motivational speaker. He built an entire philosophy around what he calls moments matter. The idea that small, seemingly insignificant moments in life prepare you for major crisis. He often says that the person he was on January 14th died in that river, and the person he became was born in it. Rick Elias, the venture capitalist in 1D, gave a TED Talk that's been viewed millions of times. He describes 3 things he learned while the plane was falling. First, everything can change in an instant. So he stopped postponing the things that mattered. He stopped saving the good wine for special occasions. The special occasion is right now. Second, ego is worthless. In his final moments, he didn't regret the arguments he'd lost or the deals that fell through at work. His only regret was the sadness of not being able to see his children grow up. So he eliminated negative energy from his life. He stopped trying to be right, and he started trying to be happy. And third, that dying wasn't scary. What scared him was the life he might have left unlived. For New York maritime community, the rescue proved something unexpected. Redemption. The harbor that had witnessed so much death on 9/11 became a site of a total survival on January 15th, 2009. That's, what a victory to have. So let's talk about this aircraft, because it now sits in the Sullenberger Aviation Museum in Charlotte, which was Flight 1549's original destination. Visitors can see the actual plane, complete with water damage. What? And they can walk through the cabin. Okay, you're not as excited as I want you to be, but that's okay. I'm excited about it. I think that's like so cool.
Sorry, it just feels like it's off the story a little bit, and I'm like, damn, it's getting fucking late.
I'm done. This is my last sentence. Captain Sully has used his unexpected fame to advocate for aviation safety, for the values of experience, for the importance of human judgment in an increasingly automated world. He often returns to something he said shortly after the landing, a line that captures everything his 42-year career had been building toward. For 42 years, I've been making small regular deposits in this bank of experience, education, and training. On January 15th, the balance was sufficient so that I could make a very large withdrawal.
That's actually a great way to look at that.
It is.
And I just want to say that New Yorkers can be so awesome, but for some reason, they only are in crisis.
They got places to be and shit to do.
I guess so.
But Zach, that is our anniversary story.
Making it to a year. And this isn't like many of the stories. I did know this one, and that's because I'm a movie guy. And there are great movies on this.
There are.
One in particular that I've seen.
Did I do an okay job telling it to you? Because I've never seen any of the movies, actually.
Oh, well, I was just thinking now I'm going to have to watch it again. So now you're going to see it.
We can watch it. Yeah, I just didn't want to watch them until I had researched this case, because I was worried that they probably have some dramatic flourishes that I didn't want to accidentally sneak in here.
There, of course, are, but
yeah,
it also holds very true to all the details that you said, because I had never researched it, so I didn't know what was fiction versus fact. And they do a very good time going into the courtroom and all the stuff and adding time for humans to gather their thoughts after something happens. It's all very good.
Okay, good. I can't wait to watch these movies. Everybody, happy anniversary. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining us. Write us an email, finalboardingcallpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get some stickers sent out to you. And join us next time when we'll be exploring another transportation disaster story. Until then, remember to stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for the unexpected, because not every trip reaches its final destination.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye.